This is the Dull Man's Podcast, the podcast for dull men
and women
who get excited about dull things.
My name is Sarah Steele. I'm a writer and musician.
And I'm Dave Harries, and I am also a musician some of the time, and I'm the producer of the show.
And I'm Demitris Deech. I'm a stand-up comedian, and at the moment I'm just thinking about a donut that I was just eating.
Oh, really? Was it a particularly nice donut?
It was raspberry, Dave. It was raspberry, and I did see you eating a double chocolate donut. So
yeah, well, I was hoping you wouldn't mention that, actually.
Well, have I just grassed you up?
You have, actually, yeah. And Sarah, are we allowed to say that you also had a donut?
I had...
It's our dirty little secret.
Yeah, caramel biscuit. The best bit of the show is when Deech turns up with the bag of donuts from the garage. I did actually call you Donut.
A donut
today.
boy, yeah. Worst superhero ever.
Donut boy. Yeah, it's true, though. We come here for these podcasts because Deech supplies the donuts.
It's all about the donuts.
I've got to say...
It's not for the comedy, is it?
No. Well, last time you said I'm struggling not to laugh. I'm like, why are you trying not to laugh? Why are you doing that?
Because it was purient. You were talking about phalli, and I'm meant to be a grown-up.
Well, there we go. But anyway, I can highly recommend Shell Garage's donuts.
Yeah,
3 for £4, Dave.
I have tasted them several times, and they are lovely. Not very good for us, but very lovely.
Exactly. Well,
so what's coming up in the podcast today, Deech?
Well, I'm going to be talking about Easter eggs. Movie Easter eggs.
Oh, not the chocolate ones.
Not the chocolate ones, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So, and I think, Sarah, when I get to it, I'm going to have to explain it to you.
Well, yeah, I know about Easter eggs in books. I'm a bit disappointed. I was hoping for a really good conversation about chocolate.
We'll have to save that for another episode. What are you going to talk about?
I'm going to talk about parents who parent their children very loudly in public.
Oh, that's a nice one. That's a nice one. Loud parents in public. That's a good frustration, that one. And I'm going to talk about watching television with experts. And what I mean by that is you're watching a show and the person you're watching it with happens to be from perhaps an industry that is being represented in the show.
Do you know lots of people in lots of different industries, Dave?
Oh, you wouldn't believe it.
Every TV programme he watches, he's got an
programme.
expert sitting with them.
Look, you can take the mickey if you like.
Put them on a shelf.
You wait till we get to the discussion and then you'll understand.
Subliminal message that Dave knows other people besides us two, Sarah. That's all it is.
So he says.
So Deech is going to talk about... Why do you laugh when I said your name? Is it that funny?
Yes, it's not even my real name. Yeah, that's right. It's my name for tax purposes.
All right. So Deech is going to talk about Easter eggs. And I believe we're not talking about chocolate Easter eggs. We're talking about a different sort of Easter egg.
Yeah, movie Easter eggs in particular. I was watching a film the other night. I was watching Forrest Gump. Great film. I love the film.
It is a good film.
Gary Sinise is in there. Tom Hanks is in there. And is it Sinise or Sinise?
Sinise, I think.
Sinise, yeah. In the film, and just to help remind people, there's a bit where Forrest Gump says that he's going to become a shrimp fisherman and he's going to captain a boat. And his friend, who is Lieutenant Dan, played by Gary Sinise, says, if you become a captain of a shrimp boat, I'm going to become an astronaut. And a year later in the film, he is a shrimp fisherman. And a year later in real life, Gary Sinise was playing an astronaut in a film. And I think that was an intentional Easter egg.
Oh, right. Yeah, so Apollo 13.
Apollo 13.
Yeah. So let's just define Easter eggs before we go any further, just in case there's people listening who are thinking, what the hell are they talking about? So an Easter egg, what you're saying, an Easter egg is like something that you can spot in a film or a play or a book that references something else outside of that.
So because I wanted to know the history of movie Easter eggs, I decided to use a website called Google. And if you ever short of answers, Google.
I must write that down.
I was going to write that down.
Yeah.
Google. So an Easter egg is a term used to describe a hidden detail left in a movie by the filmmaker. This element could be a message foreshadowing or calling back to another medium, designed to give the audience members something to thrill them as they remember in their excitement what has happened before or something which references something else.
I've got a couple of questions, Deech.
Yeah,
I can
go
interrupt
ahead.
you. First of all, I'm wondering why it's called an Easter egg.
Okay, I'm going to answer that question.
Good.
Quite comprehensively.
And then I'm thinking, if you spot one...
Yes.
Do you get a chocolate Easter egg?
Well, hopefully, yes. But no, what I was thinking is, if you spot it, there's presumably a sense of satisfaction that you're in on the joke.
Yes.
So you sort of think, I'm very well informed because
Well,
I understood the Easter egg.
Yeah, you're sort of cock a hoop.
Quickly tell us why it's called an Easter egg then.
Well, there's two schools of thought here.
So it's not going to be quick then.
No, well, no.
Should we go and have another day?
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah,
Got time to walk to the Shell garage and back again.
I'll just be finishing as you come back in. So it actually started, one of the options is it started in a video game. Warren Robinett, a programmer who created the game Adventure, which was released in 1979, secretly programmed a message that would appear only when a player moved their avatar over a specific pixel. This would then lead them to enter a previously forbidden part of the map where the message created by Warren Robinett could be found, because he was in dispute with Atari at the time because he wasn't credited with the game and he wasn't getting royalties. So he created this little thing, and somebody found that and they wrote into Atari and said, we've found this, and the Atari's then director of software development decided to keep it in, didn't decide to change the game, and said it's like an Easter egg hunt for players to go and find that.
Okay.
But there's another school of thought at the same time in the 1970s. Do you remember the Rocky Horror Picture Show?
No.
You don't
Film.
remember it?
Well, of course I remember it, but I've never seen it.
Oh, okay. So in the Rocky Horror Picture Show...
Quite proud of that, by the way.
Are you?
You're
Yeah.
proud that you've never seen
Yeah,
it?
I'm one of the only people in the whole planet who's never seen it.
I've never seen The Sound of Music.
No way.
Good God, that's far more remarkable.
I watched it for the first time 48 hours ago.
No!
Yeah.
That's so spooky.
Yeah.
Did you spot all the Easter eggs?
Not so many in The Sound of Music, just lots of Nuns and Nazis.
Well, you say that.
Which is a very
How do
specific
you know
film.
there aren't lots of Easter eggs in it?
Well, there could be. There could be. That's the thing with an Easter egg. They're hidden. Now,
I put them in my books, I have to say.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, so I put Easter eggs in my books. So when I wrote my first book, my agent said, I love the Easter eggs. I thought, I don't remember putting chocolate eggs in it.
Well, you had no idea what it was
so
talking
I went,
about.
yeah. It was, it's quite a clever device. Thinking I need to go and look this up, looked it up, realised what she was talking about.
Yeah.
And I do it deliberately now. So all of my books, every single one of my books, even though they're often about very different things, I always have something that relates to one of the other books. So if you've read all of them, you get, oh, yeah. But I've just written a book about Naples in the war, and there's a modern day character who's wearing an outfit made by Nancy Moon, who's...
It was in another one of your books.
My first book was about. So there's always just a little something.
I didn't spot that one because I've read all Sarah's books, and
You're Easter egg blind.
I am. I certainly didn't spot the Nancy Moon outfit.
But that's good that you don't spot them. You don't easily spot them.
It's subtle. It
Yeah,
amuses me rather than.
Well, I'm going to
anyone
go
else.
through a few in movies at the moment.
Okay.
But you asked me about why they're called Easter eggs. So there's the theory I gave you about Atari.
I did. I'm regretting I asked that question.
Well,
but,
I'm regretting I invited you into the
because-
Are we
studio.
still on the answer?
Yeah, we are. I think he's only halfway through,
in the
and
Rocky Horror
he's really taking the title of this podcast far too seriously.
Yeah.
Look, I was told to make it dull. I'm making it dull.
You
Right.
really are.
I'm gonna battle through even if it kills you.
I mean, it's an
Right.
interesting subject. You're doing well to make it dull, frankly.
To dull it down. Right, in the Rocky Horror Picture Show, legend suggests that the cast had an egg hunt on the set before filming started, and they hid some of those eggs so well that they weren't all found and were left on the set. And as a result, there were 3 actual Easter eggs to have made the final cut, hidden in plain sight in the film. So when you watch the film, you can see there were 3 Easter eggs.
Literal Easter eggs.
Yeah. So if you look closely, you can see one under Frank's throne, one in the main room, and one in the elevator
So I really have to watch this film now.
to see the Easter eggs.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's good reason to watch. I
So
suppose.
in films, there are some famous reoccurring ones in all films, and one is Room A113. Quite often, it might be a film and it's shot in a corridor, a scene in a corridor, and they'll go past a room and it's A113, or you might see on a back of a car, the registration might be A113. The reason being is that in the California Institute of Arts, which a lot of sort of movie directors and producers and whatnot have gone to, one of the main rooms that they study in is room A113. So it's like a reoccurring joke.
Yeah, but you've really got to be kind of have inside knowledge for that too.
You do, but even if you didn't know that, you might still see that number comes up over and over and over again.
Do you remember the TV series a couple of years ago called House?
Yeah, with
Hugh Laurie.
Yeah.
And that was loosely based on Sherlock Holmes.
I can see that.
Because House was this sort of investigator, but he was sort of socially difficult and awkward and all that sort of thing. And there was I think his address in that was the same as Sherlock Holmes's address.
Oh,
Baker Street?
Yeah, it is Baker Street, but it was the number, was it?
Was it something B, isn't it? 18B?
Something like that.
One of our listeners.
We should really know this, shouldn't we?
Can I tell you my favourite movie Easter egg?
Yeah.
My son was obsessed with Thunderbirds as a small boy, and we went to see the Thunderbirds movie, which is real life people playing the Thunderbirds. And there was this tiny scene which people who remember it as a child will laugh at. So there's this bit where they go to show the hand moving a kind of control in the cockpit, and it's a puppet hand. So do you remember in the actual series? The puppets,
it was
and then they'd have
hand.
a human hand.
So they reversed it.
It just made me smile so much.
That's a great one.
Yeah.
I like ones which are sort of clever like that. And because I started looking them up, and there's a lot of ones that I know. Say in the film Matrix. I don't know if you two are into the Matrix film.
I've seen it. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a few in there. The main character played by Keanu Reeves is called Neo, and they often refer to him as being the one. And Neo is. When I first watched it, I thought his name was Neil, but it's not. It's Neo. N-E-O.
Not quite the same, is it?
And Neo is an anagram of one. But so is that an Easter egg, a sort of part of the plot? But a good Easter egg in that film is the big thing is for him to meet the Oracle, because it's all about them being programmed, isn't it? And everything's like a sort of an electronic world. And he meets the Oracle, and she doesn't really speak to him until he accepts a cookie offer, which is basically what you do whenever you go onto a website. You have to accept cookies.
I love that the Oracle is a woman.
Can I just say that while we've been talking about this, it occurred to me that arguably one of the original Easter eggs might have been from Under Milk Wood, Dylan Thomas's classic radio play, which has been celebrated ever since, written in the 50s, I think, because the name of the village, the fishing village where Under Milk Wood is set, is Llarigib or Llarigib.
Okay.
Which, if you reverse it, is bugger all.
Oh, nice.
And that was quite intentional, obviously. Is that an Easter egg?
Yeah, well that's the thing. The definition of Easter egg, or why they're there, is, I suppose, a little bit loose, but it's often a joke like that. Is it The League of Gentlemen, the comedy show where the village was Royston Vasey?
Yeah.
And that's Roy Chubby Brown's real name.
Oh, really?
Yeah. In Little Britain, the comedy show, one of the reoccurring scenes was at Kelsey Grammar School. Kelsey Grammar being Fraser, his real name. So there's little things like that which they're either Easter eggs or jokes. In Back to the Future, great film from the 1980s. There's the shopping mall is at the start of the film is called Twin Pines, and then later on, nobody would ever notice, but it's then called the Lone Pine Shopping Mall. A reason being is when Marty goes back in time and his car is like flying across, he knocks over a pine tree, which you'd never notice. It's just something like bang, you wouldn't ever notice until you really think about it.
Yeah. That's clever, isn't it? I love all that stuff.
That is the great. So some of it is kind of integral to the plot, and some is just like a reference to what the film is about. Sometimes it can be a subtle political statement. Fight Club, great book, great movie. What is in every scene of that film? There is something in every scene of that film which is an Easter egg.
I haven't seen the film, but
Brad Pitt.
A fight.
Knuckles.
I think there's close. The Starbucks logo is in every single scene.
Really?
Yeah, it might be on a cup or just like a bit of graffiti on the wall.
Oh, were they sponsoring it?
No, quite the opposite. I think the film was, or the book is sort of like not really an anti-capitalist thing, but it's a way that sort of big society is like pounded on the little man, that kind of thing. And so I think it was a reference to that. Indiana Jones and the hieroglyphics, which are on the Ark of the Covenant. There's a C-3PO and an R2-D2 from Star Wars.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
I love Easter eggs as well. And if any of our listeners know of any others, please put it on our Facebook page.
Yeah, can I just say I still prefer the chocolate ones?
So, Sarah, pretty much every episode we like to let you air your grievances and see what's getting your goat up. What's been frustrating you this week?
This is quite a long-term frustration. It's people who parent their children really loudly in public places. So it becomes a sort of performance for everybody else. Like we all want to watch the family dynamic going on. So I was trying to work in a cafe the other day, which I often do. So trying to write. Always take my earplugs because I'm quite noisy.
So when you say working in a cafe, you were in the cafe writing?
In the cafe.
Not serving coffee.
You were being served too?
I was being served too. Is the two not...
So you were working in the cafe, but you weren't getting paid to work in the cafe.
Yeah, it was your place. It was your place. Okay.
Sorry, I'm just falling asleep here.
Sorry, we're just trying to make this as dull as possible.
You're doing well. So I was sitting, writing my book in a cafe with my earplugs in because I can't bear extraneous noise. And it's school holidays, so all the kids are around, and there was a mother and her child sitting at the table next to me, and I don't know what it was called. I don't know, pancake or tulip or earphones or something, and it was
nice name for a kid.
It was banging the radiator with a spoon. She's going, "Oh, darling Pancake, you have such a marvellous sense of rhythm. Oh, listen."
Oh, you're joking.
No.
Oh, right, so not trying to stop the child,
not stop it, encouraging the child. Oh, look how this child has this wonderful sense of rhythm. What, the child or the parent?
Both.
Yeah, both.
Well, I have to say, I don't think you can blame the child. The child is being encouraged.
No, actually, you're let off the hook. Pancake, you've been let off the hook.
Yeah, but the mother was then looking around, smiling at everyone, as if to say, "Look at my child, isn't it marvellous?" So we're all meant to join in with this thing.
The radiator, you said the radiator is being chipped away.
Yeah.
The spoon's being dented.
Yeah. My patience is being worn thin, and you're beginning to realise that my patience is pretty thin anyway.
Well, you're a musician. You should have just you should have critiqued it. Actually, she's out of time.
Yeah.
She started off with a 2/3 rhythm, and it's now gone up to a 4/4.
It's compound time. Anything's happening.
Yeah.
Sorry, is Pancake a girl? I mean, it feels like a name that could be
generic.
No one.
But I'd like to know, because next time I meet a Pancake, I'd like to.
Yeah. There was another one with her called, I don't know, Biscuit or something, playing chess very publicly and very loudly.
How do you play chess loudly? Do you say, Knight to King 4!
Exactly.
Check! Great!
Standing on the table. Oh, it's awful. And then the other day I was in the library, so I had to escape the cafe.
No. Yeah,
went to the new library in town. Really lovely space.
Nice library.
Oh, great. Yep. Take my earplugs as ever. So found a little space to sit and do my writing in peace, because what are you not meant to do in a library?
Speak loudly.
Thank you.
Or speak at all, in fact.
Woman, home educating child on a computer at the top of her voice in the middle of the library, going through different types of trees and leaves, so loud. You've surely got a laptop at home. Go and do this somewhere else. People are trying to work here.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just awful. See, when my kids were little, I mean, I was brought up as one of those kids who was only taken out of the house when you needed new shoes, and you'd have 5 minutes to have your feet measured and be out. And if your parents went out to the pub, you'd be sat in the car. Nobody saw you. Nobody saw you.
Yeah. Packet of bacon fries to keep you going for the 2 hours.
Yeah, exactly, and a bottle pop.
Yeah.
But now it's just all about the kids. So when my kids were little, I wasn't that kind of parent. So we'd do things like, I actually sound like that kind of parent now. But I remember being in Tate Art Museum with the kids.
Modern or Britain?
Modern, and they just didn't behave like these kind of perfect children who were sensitive. And they spotted this child who was in a very well-known TV programme.
Oh, okay.
And they formed a little snake, and they just followed her all around the museum, asking, "Stop doing that!" But they were just so amused.
Who was the famous child?
She was in Outnumbered, little girl.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
She's probably been traumatised ever since.
Yeah, so it
Being
was
stalked.
one of the things, instead of playing chess and reading Homer, my kids used to do this thing called follow the footsteps. So they'd pick a person to follow in a snake and copy every single movement. And when that person stopped, they'd all stop.
brilliant.
I hope social services aren't listening to this, Sarah. They might want a word. These strange games you introduce your children to.
Now, I'd say that the problem is, though, Sarah, the reason you are hearing these, I'd say, show-offy parents.
Showing off. Look, I am fertile.
I would suspect they're all vegans.
I would call them performance art parents.
Yes.
Yeah, it is performative parenting.
Yeah.
But maybe it's a generation thing as well, because, my kids are now in their 20s and I don't remember any of my friends. We were just kind of slightly embarrassed by our kids.
Yeah, I mean, I must admit, if when my daughter was, when either of them were babies, and if they started performing in public, i.e. crying very loudly, I would take them outside because I was so embarrassed by that.
And also no one likes showing off. Encouraging your child to be a show-off. Not great.
Yeah, it's actually.
Mind you are a professional show-off, aren't you?
Well, yeah. I get on stage, and I need the adulation of strangers.
Do you ever bang the radiator?
Apparently, when I was young, and if I'd been reprimanded by my parents, I would kick the radiator.
Oh, right. Because it's possible that sorry, what was his name again? Pancake. Pancake may grow up to be a stand-up comedian. In fact, I'm almost certain that they will.
Yeah. So moving on, Dave, I think you've got a particularly irritating and dull subject to discuss with us here.
Well, I have, although it was laughed at when I talked about it in the introduction, so I'm feeling a little sensitive now. But but this is basically my thing. Is how when you watch the television, you might be watching it with somebody else that you happen to know, a friend or a colleague.
Yes.
Do you often have your colleagues round to watch television?
I often invite them. I don't have any colleagues.
Yeah, actually, it's Deech, isn't it?
Yeah, and so far he's refused every invitation. Anyway, my point is, you're sitting there watching telly with or without someone, but if you're with someone and they happen to know a little bit about the thing that's on the telly. So let me give you an example. Say you're watching a police procedural drama, where the detectives are solving some crime, and just sitting next to you is someone who's an ex-copper.
Cressida Dick, sitting on your sofa.
Cressida Dick, she often comes around and watches telly with me.
Yep.
And they feel it is their place to point out all the mistakes. So you're happily watching this thing, being entertained by this TV, and let's face it, we all know TV is more or less fantasy. But the person next to you is saying, "Oh, well, we wouldn't do it like that. Oh, no, that's completely wrong," and all this sort of thing. And I find that really irritates me. But then it turns out I've done it myself, because when I'm really, because I obviously.
You've been the expert.
On cabling.
I've been the expert on.
Oh, you wouldn't plug it in like that.
On cable ties, yeah. No, normally it's like if it's set in a radio studio or something like that, and and obviously I've hung around a lot of radio studios. Not normally, not legally, obviously, but no, I've hung around radio studios.
Employment.
So you kind of know what goes on in a radio studio, and and so it's very hard to watch that.
Oh, you don't twiddle the knob like that.
Exactly, they'd never do that.
Don't do the slidey thing like that.
What sort of things have you picked up on then when you've seen that? Is there anything which you've seen and you're like, well, that's wrong? Where it's just, is it like being ridiculously wrong?
No. To be fair,
name and shame.
Yeah, come on.
To be fair, I think often, if you're a TV director or a writer or even the actors, obviously what your purpose is to entertain people and to, and you want to make it look as good as possible, and you will quite understandably bend the truth. I mean, it's fiction after all, to make it look good. So, for example, in a radio studio, you normally would have people on two sides of a soundproof piece of glass. You have the producer, stroke director on one side, and an engineer twiddling the knobs, and then you'd have a presenter on the other side. That's not always the case, but for largely that is true. But for TV purposes, that doesn't always look good. So you might dispense with the glass and have them all sitting in the same room.
Yeah.
But let's face it, who cares? Does it
doesn't
matter?
It doesn't matter. And
It doesn't matter.
I care now, though.
Oh, do you?
Pointed that out.
Oh, I'm sorry about
never
that.
going to be able to watch anything like that again.
But you must be able to think of examples of where you've been watching telly with people pointing stuff out.
Well, I've been guilty of being that expert once, and it was a once only thing. And I think it's even worse when the person who's critiquing the film is not an expert. They just happen to have a smidgen of knowledge of that.
Was that you?
Yeah.
What was your smidgen of knowledge?
So I was watching a James Bond film, and I just
I've been a spy.
That's not how we do it at all.
I'd just done a week's course in scuba diving.
I thought you were going to say spying.
Done a week's course in scuba diving, and they did this thing where they like rolled off the back of the boat and like did a like somersault kind of backflip off the boat. And I said, no. I've just been 5 days in Falmouth. I just done on like a BTEC in scuba diving. Like, no, that's not the way you scuba dive. And someone sort of looked at me. This girl looked at me and said, "So the thing you're taking away that isn't true in like GoldenEye." Is the way that they flipped off the boat. The fact that he parachuted into a plane and sort of misdirected the plane somewhere else, whilst holding his breath underwater as he dived into a submarine, that's completely irrelevant.
Well, when you've done your parachuting BTEC, you'll be in a position to complain
then I
about
can critique that.
I hope there is a spying BTEC though, because then you could become a real expert on spying. And it's funny you mentioned the James Bond thing, because I think when occasionally they'll have somebody from MI5. But if you ever hear somebody like that interviewed on the radio or on television, it's the first question they get asked is, so is it like James Bond? Or is it like Jason Bourne? It's like, and they're going to say no. Because even if it is, they could admit it.
That's lame journalism.
It's lazy. Yeah. It's but that is always the first thing they have to deal with.
I just want to know, what kind of snacks do you take with you on a mission? Because that's the stuff we need to know.
Oh, yeah.
And also, I thought, so when do they find time to go to the loo? Because they're constantly chasing.
I was going to say, that's a stupid question people ask astronauts, but Dave has to ask it of.
But with astronauts, we know the answer. They have plastic bags and things like that.
Makes a bit of a boring film. It's like,
I'm just going to nip behind the head.
15 minutes, which might be 10% of the film, is James Bond sat in trap number 2 of an airport.
But if they
groaning away.
But don't you see, these chases, they seem to last for hours.
Yeah.
When do you're
trying to get his caviar out of him. Sorry, Dave.
No, that's okay. The snack is that you just mentioned, Sarah, is also very much a factor. Because if you're running around the streets, you're running through the streets of Rome, being chased by hoodlums and on every form of transport, over the rooftops, along the road, all that sort of thing, causing crashes every left, right, and centre. You're going to want to stop for a break.
You're going to get peckish.
You're going to be.
But have you got time to go and get a panini?
Well, exactly. Just fast food. It doesn't. I'm not saying they have to sit down for a meal, but surely they need a burger or something, just to help the energy levels.
If you ever want to know what a snack a stripper would eat, it's a small pack of Maltesers.
I'm feeling vaguely uncomfortable, but I need to know why and how you know that. I
had a stripper stay in my house once.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I've got an Airbnb, and there was an event on which required a lot of strippers. And
what, in your Airbnb?
No. She just needed to stay there.
And did you say?
And she left.
I'm sure we can come to some arrangement here.
No.
Fee.
It was purely payment through Airbnb.
So what's with the Maltesers? Why Maltesers?
She brought in loads of Maltesers, and I thought, well, those must be stripper snacks.
But they're quite melty.
Well, she eats
and you haven't got any pockets, have you?
Well, you have at the beginning of the act.
I stand corrected. They weren't Maltesers, they were minstrels.
Oh, well, that makes all the difference.
They were minstrels, yeah.
Small bite-sized
That's why.
Snack.
They can be next to the skin and not...
Yeah. They still hold their own. They're not deformed by body heat.
But nevertheless, as you say, towards the end, there's still no pockets. So I'm starting to wonder where they might be stored.
They keep them under the chair.
How did we get onto this? What were we actually talking about here?
I think we were talking about watching TV with experts.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Can I tell you something that really annoys me as the annoying expert? When people are playing musical instruments on television or in films, and it's always awful, and it pains me so much. I mean, a good director will kind of pan away and cleverly hide the hands behind the keyboard.
Or they use the Thunderbird hands.
Or the Thunderbird hands come in. Yeah. But often it's terrible. And the worst one for this was actually Benjamin Cumberbatch.
Cumberbatch.
Thank you. Benedict, playing the violin as Sherlock. And it was so bad, I think they actually made a joke of it because his bowing was just so out with the music and he made no attempt to look like a violinist. And I think they must have just thought, they'd obviously tried to get him to do it properly and failed. And they thought, well, let's just go for
let's go for the comedy value.
Yeah, so...
It's true, though, isn't it? I mean, it's a curse.
Menuhin playing and then...
But it is a curse, isn't it? Because if you're a string player, you're obviously going to notice that. But most of us, I probably wouldn't notice it. I'm a musician, but I'm not a string player, so it probably would pass me by. But I think, that definitely is it's not good, is it? That you're cursed with that, and it's very difficult for you to watch. And the same, you see it. They're better at it with piano these days. I mean, the actor often takes the trouble to learn a bit of basic piano, so at least they kind of know a little bit about fingering.
Or they have a real pianist. Like Claire Hammond played Maggie Smith's young character in The Lady with the Van, and she's a proper concert pianist. So they used a real concert pianist.
Well, they stuck Maggie's head on or something.
They didn't. I've got visions of a sort of spitting image style Maggie Smith stuck on Claire Hammond's head. No, she was the younger version of Maggie Smith.
Conducting is another one. And I tell you why I bring this up is because opinion was divided about a very recent film called Maestro, which is about Leonard Bernstein. Yes. And it starred
Bradley Cooper.
But the conducting was brilliant. They got it right. But I've talked to other musicians who are not convinced by it, who say, no, I didn't like that scene. I thought it was fantastic.
I think it's a bit of sour grapes, maybe. Outsiders come in and
maybe. I was transfixed.
Yeah, that's what I felt watching James Bond. It was sour grapes for me.
You thought he wouldn't have got the better of me.
No, exactly.
I've got my BTEC
scuba dive. Exactly. Scuba dive into a submarine.
I'd have gone off the back of that boat properly.
Yeah. Wouldn't even need flippers.
Just a tuxedo.
On your back. Screw that.
I love that
when he hold my breath.
When he comes out of the water and takes his wetsuit off and he's got the perfect tuxedo on.
Yeah.
That's great. Because that's very realistic. I'm sure that happens all the time.
Yeah, that was pretty embarrassing when I was walking the streets around Falmouth with my tuxedo on, just always ready to go scuba diving.
When you turned up for the BTEC course in scuba dive, did you think that it was compulsory to wear a DJ underneath the wetsuit because you'd seen James Bond do it?
Yeah, that's what you do, isn't it?
Yeah, I thought all scuba divers wore dinner jackets underneath.
Yeah, after day one. Does anyone have any questions? Yeah, when you get into a gun battle, are you better with a water PPK or a harpoon gun?
And interestingly enough, Bradley Cooper was also wearing a dinner jacket, but I don't think that in that film he wore a wetsuit at all.
I don't think he did. I would have remembered that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And imagine the complaints they'd have got if he had. So that's not realistic. Conductors don't wear wetsuits.
We don't know that Leonard Bernstein didn't wear a wetsuit.
He might have been a very keen scuba diver. That's a stupid conversation. I'm afraid that is all we've got time for on this fabulous episode of the Dull Man's Podcast. We hope you found it very, very dull, but enjoyed it nevertheless. My name's Dave Harries, and I've been producing this.
Hopefully you found it funny as well. I've been Demitris Deech and I've enjoyed every second of being here.
And I'm Sarah Steele, and I'm gradually coming down from my donut sugar high.
If you did enjoy the podcast, then please like and share and tell all your friends, because that's how we survive, by people recommending this podcast to other people. So please do that. And we're all over social media as well, so you can follow us on Facebook and things like that. And in the meantime, we will see you for the next episode.
We talked about everything now.
Yes. Couldn't you tell? We've exhausted our...
We've all just had a massive...
Our cupboard of dullness is bare.
Scraping the barrel.
I think we've worn through the bottom of the barrel some time ago.